Oh, family, I can't wait for y'all to hear episode 2 with Diesha Banner of A Glass Above. Man, this is so exciting because Diesha has coined herself as a beverage consultant. What's a beverage consultant? Somebody who makes beverages. But check this out. Not only does she make beverages, she makes unique beverages for specific events, for specific people, and she also has something for the non-drinkers like myself. Now, occasionally, very small occasions, I might indulge. But most of the time, I'm like, what should I do in these times when I really want to look like I'm engaged and involved or just a little fancy, but I don't have to have the alcohol? Well, she tells me how to do that. And so I'm excited for you to learn about A Glass Above, what it means to be a beverage consultant. And she provides us some history as it relates to women, as it relates to African-American women, and as it relates to African-Americans in an industry such as beverages. So thank you so much for being here. And I am so excited because I can't wait for you to learn what I learned and see how it's done by none other than yours truly as we interview and learn more about Miss Diesha Banner. Now you understand it. Walk in your gift. Now just go ahead and walk in it. You got it. And it was the moment when I said, okay, just keep walking. Just keep walking. And that literally happened this year. But there was this moment where it was like, no, just do it.
Well, good.
Yeah.
At the perfect time.
At the perfect time. It started, and it really, the walk became more intentional when I started this podcast. This is officially season 2. Today, we are really going to jump into the power of voice. All right. Hello, family. Welcome to another episode of Documenting Dreams. My name is Janelle Haynes, your host. I'm the principal owner of Just Be LLC, and I'm excited for this episode today because I have none other than the special guest, Diesha Banner, who has the company called A Glass Above. And I don't want to ruin it. I don't want to try to explain it because it's so unique and so phenomenal. I'm going to let her tell us all about what exactly is A Glass Above.
Yes. So A Glass Above, thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
For sure. So I appreciate this opportunity. But yes, A Glass Above is very unique. So we hear often. But we are a mobile mixology and bartending service. So we cater beverage catering for events. So whether that is a corporate event, a networking event, a birthday party, a wedding, all of your special to you events, we will craft your beverage services according to your theme, your color scheme, your favorite spirit. All of those things kind of factor into us kind of creating that vision for you. So think of us as a caterer, but not with food, but with beverages.
Oh, I like that. I like that. So you said specialty. What are some of your favorite special drinks?
So for me, it is always about kind of thinking through what the ideas of the host are. So sometimes they have like a favorite spirit. Sometimes it's a color scheme that they're looking to fit within. So for me, I tell people I'm not creative in any other ways. I cannot sew, I cannot draw, I cannot write, I cannot paint, none of the other things. So this is kind of my creative outlet where I get to just kind of be creative and think through things and just kind of work through my palette in order to kind of create. So that's my outlet, basically.
Gotcha.
So for me, it's not necessarily a favorite, but it is trying different things. It's also exposing people to different things that they may not have necessarily known about. So it's not necessarily like I have a favorite cocktail, but it is like kind of creating based on that event.
So when did you know that this was the creative space that you would thrive in? Or did you know?
I still don't know.
That's honest.
No, but for me, I think when I first started bartending, it was kind of through a staffing agency, and it was more so kind of seeing how grand these events were and how much money people were putting into their events, and then how much was actually trickling down to the people who were actually working them. So I was just kind of like, I think I can kind of do this on my own. Like, I don't know that I need to do all of this when it's with an agency. And then they were kind of requesting like, well, can you lead the team? And, can you do all these extra things? And they paid a little bit more, but it still wasn't enough. Because at the time, my son was younger. So my whole motivation for even getting into it was to create additional revenue. And so for me, it was more so about kind of making sure that it made sense. And then there were certain parts of it that I really enjoyed. Like, I don't want to do food. Restaurants and things like that weren't a good idea because I didn't want to do any of the other pieces. I just wanted to focus on the bar part of it. But the more that I got into it, kind of starting out, it was just like additional income. But then the more I got into it, I was like, wait a minute, this is a real like thing. Like, this is a full space. And I started researching because I'm a geek at heart. So anything that I get into, I'm just like, okay, well, what are we doing here? Like, how does this work? So just started doing like research online, found out about some organizations, connected with some people on social media, and this kind of opened up a whole nother space. So it wasn't just bartending, it was the mixology, it was the learning about the spirits, it was wine, it was bourbon, like it was all these different facets. It was learning how much we actually spend in this industry. Then it's learning events and all those other things. So it was kind of like a full research period for me. And then I was like, if I'm going to do this, then I feel like I got to do it. So I kind of took a whole year to just network and just meet different people and go out, find out what was going on, because I did hear that this area had a lot going on in just in general. And so I was like, well, I'm not around those people. I got to find those people. So just kind of took a year to do some networking and then just continuing to research. And it's just kind of become like a passion project for me at this point. But I definitely enjoy the space. I definitely enjoy what I do, meeting people, and then just kind of taking it from there.
Yeah, so it's funny you talk about it sounds like it kind of happened, right? But then it was always in you. And I think, one of the things I've been focused on lately is walking in my gift. And it sounds like you discovered it and you're walking in it and it's thriving for you. Would you agree with that?
I would agree. I never would have thought I would have been here. Like I said, when I first got into it, it was just something that I was doing to create additional revenue, but it definitely has become a gift, whether that is making people feel comfortable, whether that is coordinating the events, or whether that is just showing people that look like me that this is an option for them. Because when I started out, especially in this area, there were no other services that were kind of owned by people that looked like me. And then the ones that were, they weren't very responsive. And then, when you go out to events, you see people that look like you, but they don't own them. And so for me, it was about kind of creating that shift to where it is owned, it is highlighted. Because another thing that I used to do, and I'll probably bring it back, like in February, I kind of highlight Black-owned brands and people that are doing things of color in this space. Of course, the pandemic brought around the racial reckoning, but there were things going on beforehand with smaller brands and Black brands that just weren't getting that attention. So just kind of learning those things, highlighting those folks, connecting with those folks, and then just kind of, it has become something that has somewhat become a gift. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, no, I would definitely argue, that is an area that you are, your gift is making room for you. And it sounds like you are creating some wonderful experiences. So you said this a couple of times, and I want our audience to know, what area are you talking about?
So I am in the RDU area of North Carolina. So I'm in the capital city area. So I primarily service Raleigh, Durham, Chapel Hill, and all the surrounding areas, but we do travel. So I've done things in Charlotte and South Carolina, and kind of branched out a bit. But yeah, I'll travel wherever. I just, that's just kind of where the most of my clientele are most familiar with me.
Nice. And you were talking about your Black history, honoring, or a moment where you honor Black history through, I don't want to say alcohol, through spirits. We'll call it spirits.
Yeah.
And so who are some of the African-American brands, or what are some of the African-American brands that you highlight during February?
So there are a couple of tequilas that have become pretty popular. So LeBron has a tequila that most people are most familiar with. It's called Lobos. And there is The Rock, of course, who has Terramana. And then of course Snoop has his gin, which is available here as well. But I also tried to highlight some that folks didn't know as much about. So there's a Black-owned brand by a girl. The brand is Antille Tequila. And then there is T Capri. She's out of DC. She has a tequila as well. There is a vodka line. And it is slipping my mind. Starting with the L. I have to go in the kitchen and get it. There's also Uncle Nearest, which people are learning a little bit more about through Farm Liquor. There was also Dame and Dash. They are a brand out of, they're a bourbon. There's Hillside Bourbon from some guys right here in Durham that went to Central that have a bourbon line. So there are lots of different brands that are kind of just popping up. People really only knew about Ciroc, and Ciroc isn't even Black owned, but it's Black facing. So it's just kind of exposing people to different things that they hadn't heard about. I'm a part of a group called Black Bourbon Society. So the owner, Samara, has a bourbon that she's created with the folks over at Baker's. So she has a special edition that is her brand that she pushes for as well. So it's just kind of learning a little bit more about these folks and then just kind of highlighting them. And so that's what I had done quite a bit, and also some wine. So there's Black Girl Magic wine. There's a local wine here, Shoe Crazy wine. They're out of Rocky Mount. So they have a line of wine. There's beer with Celeste Beatty out of Rocky Mount, who does Harlem Brewing. So she has a beer that folks that's Black owned. She's been doing it for quite some time. So it's just kind of getting people familiar with the brands. And then just kind of asking them to choose them so that they can kind of get a little bit more shine. So the more that people request them, of course, the more that they'll be available. And then Shoe Crazy is also getting into the spirits industry. So I think they're going to be creating a pineapple vodka as well as a whiskey, a peach whiskey. So folks are making some moves in the industry. And there's Hella, it's called Hella. And they're Black owned, but they're out of New York. So they do more of like the mixers. There's Perfectly Cordial. She has a mixer line, and we'll be doing some collaborations later on in the year, but I've done some things with her before. Hers are non-alcoholic, but they have, she has different line. She has different flavor varieties, but they're all non-alcoholic. You can add them to a spirit, or you can just enjoy them as a mocktail. Mocktails are another thing that are kind of making a resurgence here, because some people are not drinkers of alcohol. So there is a space for them where they don't have to have a Shirley Temple every time they go out, So
because I'm the Shirley Temple queen. I'll have a Shirley Temple, thank you. Or
I noticed that at a lot of my events that there are always people there that don't drink. So I do make at least one of the bases if I batch non-alcoholic, so that folks don't feel like they have to have a Shirley Temple, even though they're trying to enjoy themselves. They can be a part of the party as well. Not necessarily have to, be an outsider and just get a Sprite.
No, that's hilarious. That's beautiful though. It's funny. I thought about a couple of things as you were talking. You named more of our most recent historic. You name Uncle Nearest, which I was hoping you were going to say. My husband loves Uncle Nearest, and it's one of those things where you talk to people about it, and like it just tastes better because it's Black. Like it just goes down a little bit smoother, right?
But the interesting story is that was one of the things that I researched during that year. Like I was doing research, of course, and fell into their story and fell into Fawn. And because now, they have their distillery out in Tennessee now, but she was a master distillery for Jack Daniels for many years. And so a lot of those stories are untold, and a lot of those things probably have those same roots because they just couldn't be a part of it because of their status as slaves, so they couldn't have their
absolutely.
So I'm sure that there are tons of those stories out there, but she just found one that she was willing to champion behind.
Oh yeah, I mean that's our whole story, right?
Yeah. It is.
Named him, and I love that you've named people that our generation is familiar with, because a lot of us don't know that Snoop and
actually
and definitely didn't know
it's actually pretty decent.
Well, I don't know. However,
but I'm just saying, like, people don't know these things, but Indigo is actually really pretty good for people back then.
Yeah, no, that's why I say I'm just glad to hear you naming people that we know, you know what I mean, that are doing this thing, and you're highlighting them, and you're educating us on some things that we might not have researched or ever, thought about or considered. I am a rapper. I am, a spokesperson for whatever. I can actually do my own thing, especially, Black and brown individuals. All right, so
he got into the gin, but he also got into the wine space too, because he has the partnership with 19 Crimes. And then the same thing with E40. E40 has a bourbon, but he also has a wine collection. So people are just kind of transitioning themselves into different spaces. And I think Shannon Sharp's cognac is going to be coming out not too long out. So, people are trying to kind of prove that we are multifaceted, which we have always.
We absolutely have always been.
Not a monolith.
It's coming to the forefront. So thinking about, those people, those individuals that are influencing the market that you are, definitely delving deep into, who are the people that that are what I like to call either my elite 8 or my starting 5? Who are those individuals that are backing you and supporting you? And you don't have to name them necessarily unless you want to, but maybe what are their attributes?
As far as, you mean as far as celebrity, or just in life? Those
general.
In life. Okay. So I definitely have not been able to be in this space as entrepreneurship without, like you said, a starting 5, 8. And for me, I've always made my prayer to be intentional that people will come to me that don't mean me any harm, that will support me, that I can support them, and that we can be a part of each other's journey, because it is different when you are in this entrepreneurial journey. My sister is definitely one of my biggest advocates for sure. So especially when my son was younger, like if I had events, she would definitely help me with him, or just kind of giving me ideas or sharing posts and things of that nature, or just, even just praying, sometimes you just need to pray.
Amen.
But yes, my sister's definitely been one of my bigger advocates, but I've also kind of built a network of people, of other entrepreneurs here that we can bounce ideas off of each other, that we can come together and collaborate on things. If I have a vision or they have a vision or something that we want to pull together, we'll sit down, we'll flesh it out. We'll have meetings. We'll talk through challenges. We'll talk through triumphs. We'll celebrate each other. We will share resources. So I'm a part of quite a few just different groups of people that have just been influential, just been helpful, just been like if there is something that they can think of, they'll send it my way, or if they think I can benefit, and vice versa. If we have events, we'll support each other by going to each other's events. So I definitely feel like a network of people is imperative, because when I started out, it was more so who would that network be? Because I didn't know anybody more. So, but just kind of going out and being consistent, I kind of gained, and I went through a transition. So in 2014, I was in a partnership, and then in 2020, I went to a solo journey, and it was kind of scary because I was like, well, how will my people know, or how will this be? But it was amazing that, I didn't skip a beat. Like, I didn't miss anything. Like, my tribe of people were still right there alongside with me throughout that transition. So that's been important. Even like this year, my social media got hacked, and they text, they call, they don't care.
Oh, wow.
Like, if they need me, they'll reach out and they'll find me. So that's been important. But like I said, just champion each other. Being each other's resource, because it's not always entrepreneur. I don't care what anybody says. It's not always fun. It's not always wins. Sometimes it's losses. Sometimes it's sitting down and figuring out what that plan looks like so that you don't create the same losses. Maybe creating a new loss or a new chapter. But definitely having a group of people that you can kind of share those things with is definitely important from my perspective, for sure.
Absolutely. And so thinking about that, not business, just in your life specifically, if you were to write your story or someone to write it for you, who would that person be and where would that story begin?
Who would play me?
No.
Is that what you're asking? No, I don't know. But
if you were to write your story, or someone else was to write your story, where would that story begin?
Where would it?
And it doesn't necessarily have to be related to your business. Just in general, where does your story begin?
My story. So my story probably begins more so in college. My sophomore year, I lost my mother. And that was like kind of, how you live people say you live two different lives.
Oh yeah.
So that was kind of like the second half, one of the next half of my life, because from that point forward, you have to be a totally different person when you are, because like we were like really, really close. And so, and ironically, weeks earlier, I was talking with some friends of mine, and I was like, yeah, I can't do nothing without asking my mama, It's like, oh, wait a minute. Yeah, you do have to do stuff without asking your mom. So it was that portion of life. And then becoming a mother was something totally different, because then you don't have that mother figure to kind of guide you in that process. So it was kind of like there's a new phase of life in moving to motherhood and becoming a mother, and then becoming a single parent was a totally different journey. And I have a boy, because I am all things girl and he is all things boy. So it was just kind of figuring out navigating that space. And then I worked in a nonprofit for years and never, thought of anything different. And then, moving into entrepreneurship part-time was something different. And then moving into entrepreneurship full-time is something different. So I've definitely had different phases of my story. And it is one of, girl, life happens. Life is going to life. It is going to do what it is going to do. And you just have to do what you're going to do and allow God to do what he does. I am nothing without him. I would not be, I would be crazy. I would be, all sorts of things if I didn't have my faith, if I did not know for sure that, God has always had a hand in my life. So regardless as to how difficult or rough or, whatever happens, I know that at the end of that, there's going to be something that is going to be where I'm going to look back and be like, okay, so that's why I had to do that. Okay, here's where I am. Okay, so this is happening because that was about to happen. So it's always about perseverance. It's always about, remaining stable, remaining humble, never getting to the point where I don't feel like I can, like I'm bigger or badder or don't need support or don't need help from other folks. Now, I am very independent, so I don't always ask for help. But I do know that if I need it, it is available. And even having like adult friendships, my sister and I were laughing earlier this week because when we were younger, my mom and her friends used to go to what they said was prayer meetings. And so they had and there was a lady at our church who dealt with the youth department. So she would take us and then they would go and do their thing. And it would be for hours and hours and hours. And when we were younger, we were just like, this is some bull. Like, what are y'all doing? Not praying that long. Like, what is really going on? But when you're now that we're older, it makes sense because you need girl time. You need time to debrief. You need time to, weep with your friends or, talk through whatever your challenges are or just be with your friends without your kids.
Right. Exactly.
With those kinds of things.
Yeah,
so it's like I'm grateful now that I have friends that will, if they see something different, they will drop and they will pray, or we will, go out to eat, or we will plan a trip, or we will just grab something to eat and, just talk through life or, whatever. So whenever you have those challenges, it's definitely something that that you don't feel like you have to be alone in, whatever that is. So I feel like my story is one where it has had challenges, and I'm no different from anybody else. We all have challenges, but it is definitely one where I am intentional about understanding that whatever that rough patch is, it is just a phase, and that it will be better, and that things will move forward, and that whatever is on the other side of that, my ladder will be greater. I won't be worried about what this particular piece is. And it ain't always easy. I'm not saying that, but it definitely is something that you have to keep yourself motivated in knowing that this is what you want to do. And like you said earlier, my gift will make room for me. Even when every time I'm like, am I in the right space? Am I doing this? And then it's always like a constant reminder, like, yes, this is what you're supposed to do. Because I'm a church girl, so how did you get into alcohol? It's like, it's totally different. It's a totally different space. But I don't negate that there are other opportunities in the beverage space. I'm not just about alcohol, but although that is a piece of what I do, there are the other aspects of that are the personality and the camaraderie and the celebration of people's moments. Like I'm always around people celebrating a moment, whether that is a promotion, something going on at their job, whether it is, team building, whether it is a love that is going to marriage, whether it is a birthday and you're gaining a new year, or whether you've had a troubling year and you celebrating this birthday because you almost didn't think you were going to make it, or sweet 16, or somebody going to college, or somebody graduating from college. So it's always helping people to celebrate those life moments is kind of how I see myself in this space.
That's nice. I mean, this will be a great story to see, from the beginning to the end. We said see because you brought up, who would play you to see from beginning to end. But that's awesome. And you said something that just made me, move to my next question, which was, you said challenges. So what is the hardest decision you had to make, and who did it impact?
I think the hardest challenge in business that I've had to make was moving from being in a partnership to being on a solo venture. For me, when I started out, I was super scared. I didn't feel like I could do it. And so I was attached to a person, not the, what I'm saying? Like it just had to be somebody else to be like, okay, girl, this is attainable. In my mind, I always knew it could be, but I also learned a lot from that relationship, or that partnership. I learned about that I could do it with or without somebody else. That I knew that I didn't want to just have a business, that I wanted to do business well. So it forced me to learn about business, learn about people, learn about just kind of how you button up those things that don't necessarily, because I'm kind of more so of I probably go into things previously a lot more blindly. and just was like, oh, it feels good for right now. Let's just go with it. Versus, kind of like, you need to make sure this, and this is in place. And I didn't do that. And so now moving forward, anything that I would do, I would definitely make sure that that there's a clear line and how things work. So I think it affected us both, because I never assumed that anybody would be malicious towards me or do things. And then to see it unfold the way it did, I just didn't expect it, basically. So yeah,
but it sounds like you were able to figured out how this line can work for you, because it is kind of scary. You had that person to bounce things off of, or throw ideas out.
So and that's what I was looking for, but never received. So I just kept giving chance after chance after chance to like make it right and kind of creating that space, and it just never was a good fit. So it also taught me trust your intuition, girl. You can trust your intuition. There
you go. Yeah. No, absolutely. Steve Harvey said something one day, and I was like, oh, I never thought about it like that. He said, ladies, your intuition is a gift. It's like a gift from God. Ooh, okay. Feel that. I'm gonna make sure that I trust that. If it's a gift, it's something that it's a gift. So the gift, and you know what I mean, it's something that you hold precious. You know what I mean? You take care of it, you nurture it, you do all the things to make sure that nothing happens to it.